Welcome to episode 59 of Reading Between the Reels. I'm Craig Dickinson. Thank you so much for joining us today. If you're a new listener, we're so glad you found us. If you've been enjoying the show, please tell someone about us. Send a tweet, post to Facebook, write a review in your favorite podcast catcher, or just recommend the show to a friend. Today on the show, we are relaunching Reading Between the Reels with a discussion of our top 10 movie sequels. And I would like to officially announce two new co-hosts of the show. We've been hearing Corey Heitschmidt for a while. Corey is back. How's it going, Corey?
Good. Welcome to be here. Glad to be here.
Yeah, Corey's officially on board. And joining us today, Justin Eldon.
Hello. Happy to do this.
There you go. Full disclosure, we're all teachers. And Justin and I work together on a daily basis. So we've had several movie discussions. All three of us actually have had several movie discussions. And it's just kind of a natural outgrowth of that we do it on the show. So we're going to go ahead and start with our list of top 10 movie sequels of all time. And first question I have for you guys, just real quick, is are your lists in any particular order? Are they like 10 is your least favorite, 1 is your top, or random, or what?
For mine, it was far too complicated to figure out what is my favorite and why it's my favorite for different reasons. So I'm just going to kind of...
Cool.
No particular order.
Okay.
I've got mine arranged 1 through 10.
Ooh.
But my 7, 8, 9 could jumble at any given moment.
Yeah.
See, I misunderstood the assignment. See, I need to reorder this now.
No. That's perfect. I mean, I told you guys specifically, there's no criteria. I want to just do this as naturally as we can. So, Justin, why don't we start with you? What is your first top 10 movie sequel?
Okay, so maybe this one might actually be first, and this might. I'm gonna try and do this in some sort of an order. I love Toy Story. Grew up watching Toy Story. Grew up with the strong idea that my toys might actually be alive. Prove me wrong. So I'm gonna say sequel. I took that term kind of liberally. I'm gonna say like trilogy in this case. Toy Story 2 and 3. Just like solid movie sequels / trilogy. Great complete story. Super emotional ending. If you don't cry, you probably don't have a heart.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to throw some shade here at the end. Toy Story 4 is irrelevant and does not need to exist.
Okay. Yeah, that's a spoiler alert. What's coming later in the show.
I love Toy Story 3. I bawled harder at Toy Story 3 than I have for most movies.
Yeah.
Twice. 2 points in that movie that make you cry like crazy. In front of your kids.
What's your first one?
The first part's when they're all going down sliding down into the inferno.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
sure.
I'm there and they accept their fate. I'm tearing up. Like, this is it. And then they get saved by the claw. And then the last part where he says, "So long, partner." I still tear up just thinking about that scene.
Oh, I got goosebumps right now. That part at the end, yeah, where Andy passes the torch, no longer has the toys, gives it, I forget the little girl's name, but gives it to the little girl. I'm just like, oh man, that's my childhood. What happened?
That movie. I'm tearing up right now.
It's a good pick, Justin. All right, Corey, what about you? Give me your first sequel.
All right. My top sequel. Top 1. Top Gun Maverick. I had to go there.
Okay.
Because that movie is so iconic. That movie, what they accomplished, bringing back a character from 30, oh goodness, this is almost 40 years ago, making this movie, bringing it back and pulling off such a great movie. Rave reviews, everybody involved, top-notch acting. Again, crying in the movie when Maverick is talking to Iceman. And so that whole movie, the whole way they put that together, everything they did, Top Gun Maverick showed that you can take a character that is loved from one part and bring them back in a movie and still make it relevant, still make it updated, and still make it an incredible movie.
Nice. Yeah, that's on my list too. I mean, my list is 10 to 1, and that's my number 3. So we'll get there. I'll mention that again. But yeah, like I thought you were gonna. There's lots of very emotional moments in that movie. For me, it's at the end where Maverick says to Rooster, "Thanks for saving my life," and Rooster says, "That's what my dad would have done."
Yeah.
But yeah, gratefully, that's how you do a legacy sequel, in my opinion. My top 10, starting at number 10, is Rocky 3. I love all the Rocky movies, even Rocky 5. But for Rocky 3, I've been thinking about this a lot. I mean, when you're a kid, it's the Eye of the Tiger one and Mr. T, and those are still great things. But watching it as an adult, going back through and seeing, really, it's kind of a deconstruction of the character too, where he finds out that Mickey's been shielding him this whole time. That his legacy is kind of suspect because Mickey has just been keeping like real challengers from him until Clubber Lang shows up. And then he kind of has to re-establish himself, and then of course Mickey dies and you have all the training with Apollo Creed, and just an amazing roller coaster of a film. And I think still holds up. And obviously the soundtrack's amazing.
I think too with that film is if you watch it, I've noticed this, if you watch it at different life stages, like I watched it when I was younger, I watched it after I got married, I watched it after I have kids, and like it hits very differently. Like you notice very different themes, but all of them are equally strong. Yeah, that's a good one.
That's a great thing to point out. They do hit differently. You watch Rocky 3 now versus 10 years ago versus 20 years ago. They all have a very different feel.
Mm-hmm.
So Justin, what's your next one?
My next one is Blade Runner 2049. I was not actually introduced to Blade Runner in all of its versions, Blade Runner, the original, until like relatively later in life. Later in life for me, I'm in my 30s, but I was introduced in my mid 20s to Blade Runner, and I was like, "Oh, this is amazing! How have I not seen this? This is everything I love. It's Harrison Ford. It's sci-fi. It's gritty. This is amazing." And then I felt like Blade Runner 2049 did a sequel, like a legacy sequel, which is kind of a hard thing to pull off. About as good as you can do. Just the cinematography, like the soundtrack, the way they incorporate the old and the new characters. They have their own story while still like having an appropriate amount of callback to the original story. And it still keeps you guessing. You're still wondering whether or not, at least for me, I know there are different versions and different theories here. Maybe we're going to get some discussion on this, but you're still guessing whether or not Ford's character is a replicant at the end. Like it doesn't definitively answer that question, which has kind of been the argument since Blade Runner's been out, from what I understand. No, it just gives me the feels. It's a good one, beautifully made.
Yeah, I enjoy that too. We watched a little bit of that together last year, and that was the first time I had seen it. And I'm a huge fan of Denis Villeneuve. I have been since Dune. I've seen some of his other stuff, and I saw Blade Runner 2049 after that. But it is a beautiful movie, and I do have to say that I also appreciated the fact that they didn't definitively say if Deckard was a replicant.
Deckard, I couldn't remember his name.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, I think I walked into your room while you were watching it, and you paused it so we could have a discussion, and I'm like, no, unpause. We're watching this.
Yes, just enjoy.
I love it when movies do that, where they leave it to the audience to make your decision. Like, when is Deckard a replicant? But I also hate it when they do that too. I'm like, just tell me, I want the answer. But at the same time, don't tell me and let me decide how I want the story to end.
Yeah. Well, I think I might get corrected on this, but I think Ridley Scott has come out and given a definitive answer, but then several of his versions contradict that answer. So it's all up in the air at this point.
Yeah.
Well, then when you read what they say, if they give a definitive answer like that, then you read it and you go, yeah, I don't like that answer. No, that's not the one I want.
You already made the movie. You don't get to say after the fact.
Yeah.
That's it. All right. Corey, what about you? What's your next sequel?
My number two, Captain America, Civil War. That movie, I think, is perfection. The way they bring back that entire all-star cast, this is where we see Marvel absolutely pulling no punches, even though Wanda says you're pulling your punches. Absolutely pulling no punches. Everybody's in there. The whole lineup of just legends from the Marvel phase, the last phase, and it's just an incredible movie. Top to bottom, I think it shows some of the struggles I think you would have with superheroes, which I think makes it a little more relevant. I think the Snyderverse does a great job with that as well, but I think Marvel's Civil War did that to kind of present, if our government had superheroes, what would they try and do? What would they try and power struggles and pull, left and right. How would they try and get involved? And it makes it more complex, more complicated. And then the dividing. You would even divide your team, and then they have to battle. And the way they kept Spider-Man out of the trailers, little deceptive trailers that they were putting out where we didn't see Spider-Man in it, and then he's in the final airport scene, plays a big role. So I think it's just great, that whole marketing for it and that movie.
Absolutely. I would
Go
also
ahead.
argue. So, oh no, sorry.
No, yeah, you're good. Go ahead.
So, I'd side note to that. I would argue that the Spider-Man given to us in Civil War is the best MCU Spider-Man. He's perfectly quippy, just the right amount, and just the right amount of like I'm in the action, but also like, oh, I'm gonna like be surprised by your metal arm, and I'm gonna talk about like what your wings are made out. Like he's so great in that. He's top-notch Spider-Man.
Absolutely.
So speaking of Spider-Man, my next one, I was waiting for that segue. Spider-Man 2 is, speaking of perfection, it still holds up. I mean, the everything with Doc Ock is amazing. The train sequence, just, I mean, losing his powers and gaining them back, that whole journey, it's such a great film. And to come out only 2 years after the original one is kind of amazing how much they just kind of pumped that up. And, Tobey Maguire was almost not in that movie because of, back injury, which is referenced quite hilariously in No Way Home. I think probably the best Spider-Man villain that they've done theatrically. Hero's journey, continuing with that, having to choose whether he's Spider-Man instead of just having it thrust upon him, I think is fantastic.
The web block. He has a web block in that one.
Yeah.
Did all three of us have that on our list?
Absolutely. That was my third pick, was Spider-Man 2.
Yeah.
And can I just say how well that movie holds up to a 2022 CGI standard?
Yep.
It holds up incredibly well.
Mm-hmm. All right, Justin, what's your next sequel?
All right. So, man, I have a lot of like Disney movies on here. I promise I'm a full-grown adult with full-grown okay, so I really like The Lion King 2. Man, okay, I'm getting looks here.
No, that's fine.
The Lion King 2 has just got, the animation is not quality as you often see in sequel, or you used to, not so much anymore, but you used to see pretty poor quality in like Disney sequels. So the animation is not great, but the voice acting as well as the songs, if you haven't seen it, it's really good. Just so many good one-liners in there. I don't have a whole lot to say about that other than I like it. Maybe my list is just full of nostalgia. Oh no. Okay, anyway.
Yeah.
Great movie. I love it.
See, this is why I wanted the three of us, because we're going to have some differing perspectives. That's good. Variety's the spice of life, Justin.
But see, some of that perspective comes from a different time of life and what we're doing. You have young kids. I have young kids. So does Craig. We're all watching some of these movies, and then we're caught off like, oh, that was a great story. That's a great character.
Oh, no, my kids have never seen Lion King 2. I just like the movie.
Oh, there you go.
I mean, yeah, we watched it just earlier today.
Yeah.
Totally. Me and the kids.
Perfect. Corey, what's your next one?
My next one, I'm going to go where no man has gone before. I'm going to go with Star Trek, the reboot, Star Trek II Into Darkness.
Oh.
Where Khan, Benedict Cumberbatch plays Khan. I absolutely love this movie. I think it is a top cast. Some people don't like it, but I think the whole alternate timeline is a great way to kind of do a soft reboot. You get the same characters, you've got the same story, we've accepted where they're from, but now we get to take it into a nice, different timeline. We don't have to be held to some of the previous stuff. We can kind of reimagine. You even bring Spock in to do a little pass the torch. And so we've got new adventures, new stories, and we can have some new writing with some modern twists on it, and we don't have to be held back to the old standards and the old stories. So it's a soft reboot, a soft sequel, kind of so to say, but it's in the timeline. It's in everything you can do. So So I think that is absolutely incredible. I love Khan in there. I think Benedict Cumberbatch nails that role so well.
Yeah, he is truly scary. That scene where he's talking to Kirk while he's imprisoned, that is like a terrifying conversation that they're having. Just like the amount of visceral hatred he ejects through his language is just it's good. It's good stuff.
This is fascinating, and I really thought you were going to call my next one, Corey. But I actually have Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan as my next one,
Wow.
which is a far superior film to the one you just mentioned.
Well,
in my opinion,
cry havoc.
and let's slip the dogs of war. Ricardo Montalban is so good, and the fact that he and Shatner do not actually share physical space at all in the film is amazing. Like, it's all over the video screen when they're talking to each other. It's it's that cast at the height of its powers. It's it's the funniest that Spock has ever been. Like, intentionally so. Like, he's funny in Star Trek 4 just because he's just, fish out of water type of thing. But, the thing about lying and overestimating and the conversation with Savick about how he gets around actually telling the truth or not telling the truth is one of my favorite things. Of course, the yell is fantastic. And just how he, that Kirk is not as smart as Khan, but he's more experienced. Right. So he knows how to shut off the shields, and they go into the nebula and all of that stuff. It becomes basically a submarine movie. And the score for that film is just off the charts great.
See, and that's where I think Into Darkness kind of adds to that also. Like, if you take a look where the two do share screen time, and they do have a little bit more interaction beyond just over the communication. So but I love Ricardo Montalban too. So that's a great pick. Yeah. We're both picking good ones there,
and that's fine. Justin, what's your next one?
So this is probably a popular opinion here, but Dark Knight.
Yeah, that's my number one.
Yeah, I don't think that could avoid anyone's list. I mean, there's not much to say about that film that hasn't already been said, I'm sure. Obviously an amazing portrayal of the Joker. Just the whole movie, it shows Batman's genius, his fighting capabilities, shows his ability to like rely on the city of Gotham itself. Like to me, it encompasses like who and what Batman is, while pitting him against the best version of his villain. And just so many lines from the Joker in that one. What's the one? It's not about the money. That line where he just burns the pile of money. That's amazing. Yeah. I think of that daily as I burn piles of money.
Metaphorically speaking.
Metaphorically, yes.
Yeah. No, it's a perfect film in my opinion. The so much of it's shot in IMAX too, which is amazing to watch even at home. The scene where Batman shows up and takes down the truck. The tumbler explodes and the bat pod shoots out of there, and that whole sequence, and then flips the truck over. It's just one long, practically shot too. It's not CGI. Mm-hmm. But for me, the ending is the thing that sets that movie apart. The fact that Nolan was brave enough to just say, you know what, I'm going to make Batman the bad guy at the end of this, and not really having firm plans to make another movie. He was just like, this is just a great way to end the film. And every time Gary Oldman does that speech at the end, I get chills with the music and everything. Oh, that looks like a tone poem. It's so great.
Yeah.
I don't even think any Joker that we have at this point rivals Heath Ledger's.
No. I would make the argument that all but one Joker has been amazing in every portrayal. But I think Heath Ledger is definitely at the top of that. But we have had some amazing Jokers, but yeah, Ledger takes the cake.
Yeah. So that was a Jared Leto diss. Is that what
that was? A Jared Leto diss, but I didn't know how spicy we wanted to get on this podcast.
Hey, that's fine. He's so much better in Justice League though.
And he's Jared Leto Joker. I was not a fan of until I got to the dark view of the future in the Snyderverse that little scene where Batman goes into the apocalyptic future. Then I
That's
liked Jared Leto. I did not like him any other time.
yeah. In that one individual scene, he was fine, and then
Yeah, no, I think we'll all stipulate that Heath Ledger's performance is better than Jared
Yeah,
Leto's
we'll keep it positive.
overall. Okay, Corey, what's your next one?
All right, I'm going to go with Spider-Man No Way Home. I think this is an incredible. I didn't realize looking up all this before, kind of just doing a little bit of research and some sequels that I've seen. I didn't realize there were so many types and sequel categories for things. But when you think of this, this is that legacy sequel, which is where you get characters to return to their old favorites with original stars returning in their iconic roles. And to see 3 Spider-Men, no matter who your favorite is, to see your 3 Spider-Men on the screen together, web slinging, all jumping at the same time and screaming, and having small interactions where, for example, web shooters, where we finally get to address organic web shooters versus, chemical web shooters that they make, and having to have that conversation. And then just the little conversation of, so let's talk about your web situation,
Yeah,
and the whole pointing meme that they were able to give us at the same time. And so I think it is a legacy fan favorite. Here you go. We've been fans on this whole ride through all these characters, all these reboots. We get them in one movie together. I could go see another Spider-Man multiverse movie, bring in Miles Morales, and I would go watch that movie 2, 3, 4 times in a theater because it's so great.
yeah, and I just love the open secret of Toby and Andrew being in the film, and Andrew Garfield just lying his butt off.
the extreme denial for
so
months.
Great. And I just remember seeing that because you knew they were going to be in it because they brought their villains back. It's like if they don't, and I remember having this conversation with several people, if they don't bring back Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield, it's just leaving money on the table. That's just stupid if they don't. Yeah, it'd have been. And then when Andrew Garfield shows up, I looked over at my wife Jody in the theater and was like, he has been lying for like 6 months.
Oh yeah,
he was not in this film.
Flat
But I was
out
so
lying.
excited because he's far and away my favorite Spider-Man. So it was just great to have him back and to get that payoff with the Gwen Stacy callback to, and he dives down and saves Zendaya. And yeah, I mean that movie did fan service right. Like it wasn't over the top with fan service, but it did give you everything that you wanted.
It was also nice that I feel like they gave semi-equal screen time to all of to both Toby and Garfield.
Yep.
Yeah. Instead of just focusing on one of them, and they both have their chance to shine with their own respective personalities. And then obviously like the Gwen callback there. Fantastic.
There's a part of me that hopes for a Venom Andrew Garfield crossover sequel to now be made. That's what I'm hoping for because he's the only one that hasn't fought an alien, so they can put him in Andrew Garfield's universe.
I want to fight an alien. All right. Speaking of aliens, my next one is also a superhero movie, Superman 2. And there's 2 great versions of this film. And I don't know have you guys seen the Richard Donner cut?
No.
Well, we're gonna talk about this next week because next week we're doing Superman, or not next week, but the next episode. But Superman 2 is still, in my opinion, one of the greatest superhero sequels ever. I mean, and as far as upping the stakes, it pays off things from the first movie. You have just that little prologue at the beginning of Superman the movie with Zod and his 2 henchmen. And henchwoman, and then they come back in the second one, and so now Superman has to fight 3 Kryptonians that are just as strong as he is, and then he gives up his powers before he knows that they're back, and then he has to get his powers back somehow, and he tricks the Kryptonians, and Lex Luthor's back, and just a great way to up the stakes. I think it still holds up story wise. I mean, some of the special effects are a little bit dated at this point, but I think the story is fantastic, and the Donner cut, if you haven't seen it, is even more so. That some of the special effects, again, because they had to kind of patch that thing together to make it actually fit Richard Donner's vision, but the story is even that much heavier and just more interesting, I think. All right. So, Justin, what's your next one?
I don't know if this counts as a sequel, but I'm going to count it. Logan. I
That's
absolutely
totally a
love
sequel.
Logan.
Yeah.
Like
Yep.
growing up watching the 90s X-Men cartoon, being so into the X-Men movies when they came out, they were kind of hit and miss, but Logan I think is just the absolute perfect send-off, which apparently isn't a send-off for Hugh Jackman because it turns out he's coming back in Deadpool 3. But at the time, it was a send-off. It was like emotional. You loved Hugh Jackman's Wolverine in that, and you were so sad to like see, at least for me, like to what he had become, what Professor Xavier had become, what had become of the X-Men. We finally got our rated R Wolverine movie that we needed. I remember even as a kid watching, I think it was X-Men. It was X-Men 2, and like watching Wolverine tear through some of those military guys, and like never was there any blood. I'm just like, I'm only like 14 years old, but I'm pretty sure there should be more gore here. And I feel like Logan, we got that without the excess. It was, just that was a fantastic movie. Cried in that movie. Not as much as Toy Story, but definite tears.
That's
I
a
need
twin bill for you
I need
there.
more Hugh Jackman as Wolverine.
Well,
We're
looks
gonna
like
get
we're
a
getting
little
it.
more.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, great flick. That's a good pick. Definitely a good sequel. Corey, what's your next one?
I'm going to go with something a little off the wall, a little less known. It's a different category that I appreciate for types of sequels, and it's going to be a spiritual sequel. What that means is this is a category where it has no direct connection to a previous story. However, it's got a lot of the main characters or the main stars they want to return. Sometimes they play the same characters, sometimes they play the same type of story. And so I'm going to say Fierce Creatures is one of my favorites. Now, Fierce Creatures is a spiritual sequel to A Fish Called Wanda.
Right.
And so spiritual, it's where it's the same filmmakers, some of the same actors. I mean, they're all the same actors. They have the same type of love triangle going on that they had in Fish Called Wanda. But it's just a different role. And so it's a way of, you get a sequel, but not the same story and not the same characters, but you get the same feel of what you had before, the same comedy, the same jokes, the same hits. And Kevin Kline, John Cleese, I think they're just amazing in this when they do this movie. Jamie Lee Curtis, I mean, they're just incredible.
I had to do some quick Googling because I have never heard of that movie nor its sequel or prequel. I never heard. Okay.
Yeah.
It's got a lot of quotable things in it that happen. And so it's just one of those guilty pleasure movies that I like. I'm a comedy buff. I love the comedies. And so I'm throwing that in there because it's a different category than most of what we have.
There. That's nice.
That's
I think
true. We
I've
don't
seen
have a lot of comedies on here. Yeah.
No. I think I've seen A Fish Called Wanda once, and I have not seen Fierce Creatures. But I do love me some John Cleese, so and Kevin Kline, so I could definitely check that out. My next one is James Cameron's Aliens, which is a fantastic film that absolutely still holds up, and Justin doesn't think it does hold up. That's wrong, dude. It's amazing.
This is an audio podcast. If I make facial expressions, you cannot comment on that to the listeners. That's not fair.
All right,
That's
so here's the
between
thing.
you and me.
Ridley Scott's Alien is a perfect movie, in my opinion.
Agreed.
It is the definitive, horror sci-fi horror film. And so to follow that up at all is a giant risk. And I think it was a brilliant move by James Cameron to just turn it into now it's a sci-fi war movie, right? To not try and directly follow up what Alien was, but to kind of turn it on its head a little bit. And so there was a story I read recently where part of his pitch was he flipped over the script and wrote the word alien and then wrote a $sign after the N. And that's partly how the movie got made. It's like, we just put another one. I mean, what a great title. We just add another S. There's more of them now. But just the fact that you're sending in Marines fully armed. Before it was just like they had like homemade, scrap together flamethrowers and cattle prods and stuff to try and take down an alien. Now they've got, latest military equipment and they're still getting slaughtered. But speaking of quotable movies, I mean, everything Bill Paxton says, is is hilarious. Game over.
Game over.
Michael Biehn is fantastic. And Sigourney Weaver is just amazing. Like, you guys are making me laugh. I love Sigourney Weaver in this movie so much. And her transformation from the first time we see her in Alien 2, where she's at the end of Aliens, is some amazing character development.
Okay, so I understand I am going to be in the great minority with this opinion here. I understand that most people really like Aliens. I dislike that movie for all of the reasons you mentioned that you liked it. Like, it's so different from the first one. Like, to me, it feels like such a different genre. And then I feel bad because he's died, but I cannot stand Bill Paxton's character in that movie. Every time he opens his mouth, I'm like, oh, please let a xenomorph kill this man. Like, let him die. No, just his tone of voice, something about it's like nails on a chalkboard, and it just seems so overacted. Craig, I'm glad you have your opinion, but I disagree.
Oh man, he's so good. And Paul Reiser is the bad guy, just that slick, slimy guy. Oh man, so good.
Maybe I need to rewatch it.
You know who was great in that movie is Michael Biehn as well.
Yeah,
we've talked about him multiple times in the last couple podcasts.
He's fantastic.
I love that guy. I think he's a great actor. I think he's great in that role too.
All right, Justin. So what's your next one then?
Okay, see, this is bad because I just dissed on yours, which was Aliens.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I'm going to bring up probably one of the more disliked movies of that franchise, Prometheus. I really like Prometheus. I know it is deeply flawed in terms of like the overall alien universe or whatever it is, or shared movie universe, I guess. Story wise, it's got its issues, but something about it, like mostly the cinematography, I think I would say is just, it's really pretty. Mm-hmm. It's just like a gorgeous movie. I feel like Michael Fassbender's performance in that is spot on as well. Like he probably steals that movie. And we finally get to kind of see the origin of how some of that stuff started to happen within that universe. Pretty solid. I understand that's a prequel, but I'm gonna count it because it still came out after Alien. And then I'm gonna piggyback off that one and then say Alien Covenant. I really enjoyed that one too. Again, deeply flawed, but I liked it.
I love both those movies. And you're right. They're gorgeous, and Fassbender is amazing. The cast in that first one too, in Prometheus. I mean, Idris Elba's in there.
Who plays the heroine in that? I can't remember her name.
Naomi. I can't say her last name.
She's fantastic.
Yeah.
Yes.
Charlize Theron's in there. There's just a ton of like really great character actors. It's like the guy that plays Wong is in there. I can't think of his name off the top of my head.
Oh, he is. He's one of the pilots.
So many people that you'd recognize are in that film. Mm-hmm. It's a good film. I like that film. I have no problem with that.
Yeah, there's a lot going on with Prometheus in terms of like the goo and what the goo can do and why people would interact with that snake thing that like rips the guy's arm. It's like, why would you touch that, man? It's obviously like I didn't need the scary music to know that thing was going to rip your arm off.
I told you that was bad.
And wasn't that guy like an expert in animals or something? Anyway.
There's a lot of stupid decisions by the cast in both those movies, but I don't care.
Horror movie or I guess like sci-fi thriller movies wouldn't exist without stupid decisions.
So. That's right. So the movie can happen. Corey, what's your next one?
All right. I'm going to go with an oldie but a goodie. I'm going to go with Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade.
Oh,
I think is a great capper to the trilogy. And when it ended, I think it was a great comic surprise. Two legends, Harrison Ford, Sean Connery sharing the screen. Some of the antics they get up to. I think Steven Spielberg, this whole trilogy he has is absolutely incredible. I love Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. I think it's great. I think it's an endearing movie that kind of goes with very much with the Raiders of the Lost Ark theme and not so much the Temple of Doom. And so I think you get more of that archaeology dig into it, and he's reading the signs, looking for the cup of Christ. So I think the way they play that whole thing out is absolutely great. I think you cannot ask for a better ending of a sequel trilogy than
you get back into like the World War II feel of it as well, the Nazis and
Yep.
yeah.
Well, and they do a great job of bringing those in, and as a side story, as everything's off to the side, we know the villains, we know who they are, and they're moving through them, and he calls them the Lion's Den, and so there's some great scenes in there, and Sean Connery just kind of unwittingly, getting them into some hijinks, is absolutely fantastic. So,
Yeah.
So would you say this is an unfair question, but do you like The Last Crusade more than Raiders?
that's a tough
Is that
pick.
is that treasonous
Yes.
to even ask that question?
Yes, because here's
You look-
why. If
Ooh.
Indiana Jones had done nothing in Raiders, the ending would have still been the same.
Oh, let's not go down.
I'm gonna throw that out there. No
Okay,
Indiana.
well-
There's no movie.
Okay,
There's
so
no
put
movie.
a pin in that because we're gonna do Raiders.
Okay.
We'll do
But
Raiders
no,
down the line right before the next one.
I think Last Crusade is probably the best one that they put out so far.
That's fair. I mean, it's a good film. It's a really good film.
Absolutely.
All right, my next one is Captain America: The Winter Soldier, which I will argue with anybody that is still the best MCU movie they've ever made.
True statement.
I think it is just the tightest plot. It's amazing. The twist with not even just counting like the Hydra twist, which was great, and I did not see that coming at all. But just I think it's the best portrayal of Cap that we've had. Just to see his powers, like the whole opening sequence. Was he wearing a parachute? No, he was not. And him running over the deck of the ship and just throwing the shield and just taking out guys in like 2 seconds. Just the definitive Cap movie, in my opinion. His discussion with Fury about, this isn't freedom, this is fear. All of that. It just feels to me like it is the best MCU movie.
I feel like you really start to appreciate Captain America as well too, because in the Avengers he seems very outclassed by the rest of his team.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess you got Hawkeye and Black Widow in there, but in terms of like the heavy hitters, he's pretty outclassed. But in that, you really see where he shines. Like he's not just a superhero with superpowers; he's more of like a symbol where people are willing to follow him because of what he believes in and who he is.
That great speech that he has, that's a speech I actually used that when I taught high school, because it uses empathy and it uses like all the persuasive techniques that you're supposed to use in a speech. He uses all of them. It's such a great speech.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Nick Fury dies kind of, but he doesn't. That's the fight in the street, and like it didn't matter that you already knew that Bucky was coming back. Of course, we all knew that. But if you hadn't seen that, I suppose that would be a pretty amazing twist.
I also think it gets right to the point too, where I think sometimes Marvel movies will get crushed under the weight of their own greatness. Like there are so many things going on, so many plot lines to keep track of and character arcs. That movie is perfectly situated to handle all of that without taking on too much.
Yeah. It's not setting up the next film.
Yeah.
All right, Justin, what's your next one?
All right. I'm going to go with, and maybe this is one that I have been watching with my kids. My kids have recently started discovering the Home Alone movies and Home Alone 2. Like Home Alone 1 is amazing. Almost probably a perfect film, I would say. But Home Alone 2 is a very good sequel. I don't think it's perfect, but it's certainly up there. It has like just enough of a new story feel that they weren't trying to completely copy the original, but also just enough throwbacks to the original to make you feel like, okay, this is like the same feeling of a movie. Just a great feel good, happy movie all around.
Yeah, the scene with
unless you're the criminals.
Scene with the bricks when he takes like 3 or 4 bricks to the face, Daniel Stern does. That just slays me. I'm just dying.
Yeah, and it's slapstick.
Yeah,
and
it's a cartoon.
If you don't appreciate that, like watch it with a kid, and you're like, oh, okay. Like now I see. I love that. Yeah.
Yeah. I used to hate those movies when I was a kid because I was
Really?
like, that's so fake. And then I finally realized if you just watch them like it's a cartoon, then you're fine. And then ever since then, I'm like, yeah, it's hilarious.
The part where the taller villain. I don't remember his name, but where he's messing with like the washer and dryer, and he gets shocked, and like you see a skeleton for a moment.
Yeah.
Um, my son would be so mad if he heard me say this. He peed his pants in that moment. Like literally, he's like, "Dad, I have to go to the bathroom." He ran to the bath and like he did not make it. He was laughing so hard. Classic.
Yeah, that's pretty great. And that's a feel good movie too. You know, the lady with the pigeons and stuff too. Like it's got enough of a heart to it as well
Mm.
that it's not just overly silly.
When I was a kid, I did not know that was a lady.
Yeah,
Thought it was a man the entire movie.
and that's okay.
Mm.
I was very surprised.
All right, Corey, what's your next one?
My next one is Creed. Creed, continuing
Okay.
the 7th installment in the Rocky series. When Adonis Johnson, Apollo Creed's son, comes in, and I think that is just a great movie. Sets it up to where now I need sequels in Creed's storyline, but you also bring in Rocky into it. I don't think you could have that start without him. Now he's in the trainer role. I think Creed is such a well done movie. I think Creed 2 is fantastic. Makes me just look forward to Creed 3 and to see how you are you going to take this character and have him mirror some of the same things that Rocky went through? So like you said, Rocky 3 was your favorite. So does that mean Creed's going to lose against kind of a Clubber Lang son in this next one? I mean, he's Clubber Lang's son in Creed 3, right? Is what I thought.
I mean, I remember that being a rumor. I'm not sure if that's been confirmed.
Well,
Or
and
not.
so
I'm trying to stay kind of spoiler free from that, but I don't know.
Yeah, but
That's a
it's so
possibility.
it just makes me wonder. Sometimes you see how things do mirror through different generations, and so I think it's a great way to sequel into a character, but then also the next generation, how that's going to look. So, and to kind of fade out Rocky story and fade in the Rocky legacy.
Yeah, Stallone's amazing in that movie. He really, I know he got nominated for an Oscar for that, but I think he was fantastic in that. And we'll talk more about that film in a couple weeks as well, down the line when get ready for Creed 3. But that's also kind of a reboot at the same time. Like it kind of reboots and it's kind of a remake also of Rocky in a lot of ways, as well as being a sequel. Kind of fits a lot of different categories. My next one is Terminator 2 Judgment Day, which I'm a little embarrassed to say that when I heard this movie was coming out, I was like, why? Because Terminator 1 ends, I think, in a great way where they didn't need a sequel. So this, for me, it had a little bit of catching up to do. Like it had to kind of impress me and it just blew me away. I remember seeing this in the theater with my dad and was just like, this is amazing. This is, again, I think a perfect movie. Even so, I mean, they spoil the fact that Arnold's coming back as a good guy in the trailer, which is okay. And it's just great to see him back almost playing the same character they played from the first movie and to see like Linda Hamilton try and, deal with that. And then of course you get to see the relationship with him and John and then T-800 kind of becoming human and very quotable movie, obviously. Great ending to that film as well. Just top of the line special effects. Robert Patrick as a T-1000. Just a great movie.
Yeah, those special effects. Speaking of movies that still hold up today, like that T-1000, a lot of that I feel is pretty solid. It's funny because he's liquid. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, great film.
So that was listed as one of the categories as a retcon sequel, which goes and kind of ignores some of the previous sequels that came before it. you feel like that? Like I haven't seen it as much, so I've watched it, but I haven't seen as deep into the Terminator series as this. But do you think that it goes through and kind of ignores or kind of doesn't really? Okay, well, those other sequels that came out later, like the Genesis ones, and that those don't necessarily apply.
I feel like the nature of the Terminator franchise is every single movie retcons every other movie.
That's
it's
kind of
like,
yeah,
like blame it on time travel or blame it on just like writing issue. I don't know what you want to blame it on, but
in the storyline, you could say that that's a viable thing because every time you destroy a Terminator, you change the future, which changes the past, which, so
Yeah.
you could say that each one is its own.
Yeah. I feel like it's near impossible though to not retcon yourself with any sort of time travel movie. Like
yeah.
that's just what it is. You can't
Right.
you can't really do that right. Except for Back to the Future.
There you go. We'll be talking about Back to the Future this year too. We got a lot of good stuff coming up down the line. Corey, what's your next one?
Well, it's funny you say Back to the Future, because Back to the Future 2 was my next
one
movie
too.
that I was picking.
Nice.
Wow.
And I think this movie, I still to this day remember going to watch this movie in the theater with my dad, and we parked right next to a DeLorean in the parking lot that someone had come to watch this movie in. And there's a DeLorean. I get out. I'm looking at the DeLorean. It's this legendary car. And to see it in the theater, Back to the Future 2, at that time, all the things it predicted, the hoverboard, I was in high school, and the hoverboard, I was, oh my gosh, that's the best thing ever. I wanted one. And then the idea of going back to the past to give Biff the Gray Sports Almanac. I think that whole series and everything they did with Back to the Future 2 was great. And then to get to the times where the Back to the Future has actually happened, the events, the timelines, and then find out we don't have hoverboards yet. We don't have flying cars. We don't control the weather like that. I'm a little disappointed.
Like, what are we really doing as a species? Like,
Exactly.
what are our priorities?
Yeah. I mean, the Cubs won the World Series. That's like the only thing they got right.
Yeah.
Like, whatever you're doing right now, just like put it down and go invent a hoverboard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then to see Christopher Lloyd and Michael J. Fox in the last 6-7 years through these timelines have they've got together for little skits here and there, or little moments where they're together, and it's still a powerful reconnection of two of your favorite actors getting together in real life that are good friends in real life. There's just a chemistry and a connection between them that I don't think you could argue very few movies are able to pull off that chemistry.
Yeah. Justin, I realized that I skipped you.
Oh, I'm deeply offended. No, I was even trying to set myself up for the segue there by mentioning Back to the Future, and then Corey just comes in and boom, takes it from me. But that was my next one, Back to the Future. And little side note, so 2007 to 2009, I lived in Michigan, and John DeLorean, the inventor of the DeLorean, died in 2005. And I had a friend that dragged me to John DeLorean's gravestone. Like, we walked around the cemetery for hours trying to find it so he could view the gravestone. That's the end of that story. I was just really mad. I wasted an entire day. I mean, not wasted,
No.
but wasted.
Gotcha. So Back to the Future 2 for you as well?
Yeah, I got
the second one.
two.
Okay.
Corey said everything. A fantastic film.
Yeah, I remember seeing that in the theater and just being so excited about it, and it lived up to it. I love the fact that it went back over the first movie in certain parts. That was just kind of fun to see that from a different perspective too.
Yeah, that was fun. We when I was a kid, we took a road trip. It was like a 3-hour road trip. We had like one of those DVD players, and the only movie we brought was Back to the Future 2. And for 3 days, that's all we watched in the car. I've seen that movie many times.
Yeah. Well, my next one is Top Gun Maverick, which we've already talked about at length. An amazing film. I just, it gets better every time I watch it. I love it so very much. So I don't have anything else to say about it. So Justin, I'll go back to you now. What's your next one?
I'm actually out. We've covered
all yours.
All of mine, yeah, because we've doubled up on a couple of them.
Okay, Corey, do you have any others that we haven't talked about?
I do. I'm going to go with, now this is going to be a little bit different. This is a sequel category, the reimagining, where it's not a bad idea. It was a franchise that's ripe for an update, and they did this, and I think it was incredible. So I'm going to go with not a movie, but a TV series that sequeled off and reimagined was Battlestar Galactica. The series reimagined those four seasons, which was not enough for me. I need more. I need a movie from this is what I need. I think to take a story in a franchise and then to continue that story or rewrite it with some of those favorite characters and to make it more modern and give it the CGI it deserves, the story arcs it deserves, to take it so that it's no longer just a 2-hour movie, but to block it out over multiple seasons, which I love that kind of some of our favorite characters are doing that now, where they're becoming seasons and episodes instead of just a 2-hour movie like Obi-Wan. Don't give me a 2-hour movie with Obi-Wan. Give me an eight episode arc of Obi-Wan. That kind of thing is fantastic. And I think that's the way some of these want to go with some of these favorite characters. And so they're reimagining. And I think Battlestar Galactica is an example that sets that kind of thing up, where the whole story and the arc of all the characters and everything they do in there just takes it in a whole new direction, but at the same time keeps true to the whole story.
I've never seen a minute of that. I know. I should. I remember watching the original one when I was a kid and enjoying it thoroughly, but I've never seen the newer one. It's
definitely a darker and a little bit more grown-up theme for a lot of things, but it is a absolute examines the human element of what you would go through in those moments. Yeah. There's some very powerful political messages that they throw in some of those episodes where they don't shy away from them, of things you'd be forced to face.
Okay.
In that situation.
As Cap would say, I'll put it on the list. See, I forgot Falcon was introduced in that movie too.
See?
On your left. So my number one was The Dark Knight, which we already talked about. My second from number one is The Empire Strikes Back.
Solid.
Which is, in a lot of people's estimation, the best Star Wars movie ever made. And it's at the same time the darkest and the funniest in a lot of ways. It's not my favorite. My favorite is Return of the Jedi, but I do love Empire. And this is one I remember just about every year when I show Star Wars to my students, that a lot of them kind of have a hard time with A New Hope, because I always start with 4. But about halfway through Empire, everybody's hooked. And it's one of two things. It's either Yoda or it's the Han and Leia romance. Which is, it's just done so beautifully. It's so witty. It's so well written. The movie's kind of an inversion of the first film, where it starts with a big battle and then it's kind of a character piece for the rest of it, which is interesting. And then of course you have the great reveal, which I remember as a kid. I thought he was lying. That Vader was Luke's dad. I remember being confused a little bit about that, and also how Luke could cut off Vader's head and him not be dead, because I didn't understand the cave sequence. But that's okay, because adults don't understand the cave sequence.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if I fully still understand the whole cave sequence, but as a 4-year-old, it's definitely got a lot to chew on.
Yeah,
but a great film.
I did not understand that cave sequence when I was a kid at all.
Yeah.
I think you could probably argue that movie has the best lightsaber battle in it as well. The Cloud City fight, certainly my favorite.
It's a good one.
Yeah.
I'll rotate for my favorite.
Yep. That's a hard one to. It's good. But
yeah. Especially in the carbon freezing chamber, just fantastic scene all around.
Oh yeah, just
lots of emotion.
So well lit.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that's a great sequel, like a simple sequel that just continues the story where the other one left off. Episode 4 leaves off. We go straight to episode 5. Next logical progression, get through it. But then also that's the type of movie that kind of made it to where you get the big setup for another sequel. Oh, we're coming back, and there's going to be more. There's more to the story. And so you set that up, because there's so many good movies that end and you're like, oh, I need more to this story. And that's one where you're left with such cliffhangers. I got to have episode 6. That drives.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Like Han's gone. You got to bring Han back.
Right.
Clearly there's going to be another movie.
And I'm going to wait 3 long years for that, which I miss having to wait, which is weird to say, but I do. So we're running kind of shy on time. So we're going to kind of fly through some of the next few things. We definitely wanted to spend the most of our time talking about the things we really like. But I also wanted to ask if you guys, did you have any honorable mentions? And we'll just go these rapid fire all at once. Justin, do you have any honorable mentions for sequels?
I don't. I mean, I have some, but we already talked about them. So They were Terminator 2, essentially. Okay. Obviously, an amazing sequel, but I didn't want to throw it in my top 10.
That's fine. Corey, what about you? Any honorable mentions you just want to rapid fire go through?
I got a couple. I got Kung Fu Panda 2. I love that one.
Good one.
Tear up on that one. Rush Hour 2, Red 2, Crocodile Dundee 2. And then Avatar 2, I'm going to throw that out there, Sully's Vacation in SeaWorld. is is a good one. It's a good one. I was left thinking it's just a rebox of the first one, but now it's
Right.
underwater, Sully's Vacation. So, but it was good. And then
Well,
I'm going to finish with this one. Here's my honorable mention. 22 Jump Street is, it's a good movie. It's kind of that comedy that I like, action comedy, some fun stuff. But the end credits in that are absolutely incredible. And whoever the graphic designer was that made the fake movie posters for the end credits of 22 Jump Street must have had a ball. And these actors putting on the little skits they had to do to just film a 10-second spoof of what the next movie would have been. They go through and they list 23 Jump Street, 24 Jump Street, 25 Jump Street, like what the sequels would have been. And they're all different things. Like they're in Antarctica, they're in Russia, they're in medical school. And so they're just going through all these things, making fake posters and a fake scene from each of those. So their end credits take the cake as far as a sequel that doesn't take itself so seriously, but then sets up like, oh, these would have been great sequels.
Okay.
Corey, I appreciate you coming in with the comedic aspect of this, because I don't think Craig or I had any comedies on our lists.
I've got a couple more, but
I almost. Okay. All right. Here's my honorable mentions. Just rapid fire. Meet the Fockers.
Good.
Batman Returns.
Ooh.
Army of Darkness.
Ooh.
Mission Impossible. I'm going to take Fallout because they just get better every time.
Not Mission Impossible 2, Craig?
Protocol?
Mission Impossible 2 is, in my opinion, the weakest of the weakest film in the series. I love Fallout so much.
I don't think anyone would disagree with that.
Lord of the Rings: The Two Towers.
Oh.
And I'm going to go and Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, the fifth one.
Oh, that was good.
Ooh, I'm a little embarrassed we didn't mention any of those in our main lists. Those are amazing.
Well, top 10 is kind of hard to crack into.
It is.
Okay, so moving on. Just one. Worst sequel.
Oh, just one?
Just one. We're gonna just do one for each of the last few because we still got a movie to give away.
All right. I'm gonna go first here. No, I'm not. Someone else go.
I've got it.
Go.
Caddyshack 2.
Yeah.
Absolutely terrible.
Yep. Justin, are you ready? Because I got one.
I don't know. Do me last.
Okay. I'm going to go with Teen Wolf 2. And the reason for that is I love Teen Wolf 1. And I didn't see it in the theater because I was pretty young. And I saw Teen Wolf 2 in the theater and I was so excited for it. And it just is garbage. And they recast some of the people from, like, the guy that played Styles in the first movie was recast for this one. And that just bugged the snot out of me. I was just like in a bad mood.
I can't accept recastings like that.
Can't do it. So it's okay, Justin, if you don't have one. You just don't want to be negative.
No. I got it. I just couldn't narrow it down is the thing, because they all just fill me with such anger.
Yeah.
All right. So I loved the original Mortal Kombat movie, 1995. Fantastic movie. Well, maybe it's not a good movie, but I really liked it. And then they came out with, in 1997, Mortal Kombat Annihilation, which was it just hurt me. And it was the first time as a child I was disappointed at a movie theater. Just made me so mad. And
I would agree with that feeling. That's one of the first times where I remember being disappointed like that. That is horrible.
Yeah, because the first one was so good, and the second one you're like, what are you doing?
Just a money grab.
All right, next category. Movie that didn't need a sequel and got one. So the movie itself is good. The sequel, completely unnecessary.
I got one.
Go.
Space Jam 2. Space Jam 2 I love. Michael Jordan was good. Those athletes do not make the best actors, but Michael Jordan did it. Space Jam 2 was terrible. But they didn't need to do a sequel to Space Jam. They should have just left it off right there.
Yeah. Justin?
Could you repeat the category, please?
Yeah, so movie that didn't need a sequel and got one.
Okay, but not necessarily a bad sequel.
No, yeah, it doesn't have to be bad. Just the fact that it didn't need one.
I have a list on my rundown here of spicy opinions. This spicy opinion is Die Hard 2. Because Die Hard was so good. So good. No, but Die Hard 2 didn't need to happen. This is a normal guy, a normal cop who finds himself in an extraordinary situation. The fact that he's going to find himself in an extraordinary situation a second time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then, as Corey is
4 more times.
mentioning,
4, 3, 4, 4, 5, 6.
and not that they're necessarily bad movies, but I was happy with the first
Yeah.
one.
He flew a car into a jet. I mean, yeah, I think that movie
Helicopter. Yeah.
or into a helicopter. Yeah, it's the thing about it is Craig disagrees with me on this because we've had this discussion. Die Hard 2, I didn't like it as much, but Die Hard 3 I thought was fantastic.
I
So
love
it
both.
was the
Yeah,
redeeming.
But Die Hard 3 is a better movie.
Yeah,
than
there's
2.
nothing wrong with the movies.
Yeah.
First one was fine.
Okay, here's mine. The Fugitive.
That was just a remake.
No, The Fugitive itself was a perfect movie with Tommy Lee Jones, Oscar winner from that film, and Harrison Ford. That is a perfect film, and we should do it at some point. It's amazing.
Yes.
And then they made a sequel to that, U.S. Marshals, which is trash.
Which is the same movie.
It's
with
it's
a bus or with a plane. I forget.
I think it's a plane. But Wesley Snipes' character is wrongly accused, and I remember watching that and like, if they make him actually a bad guy, like a really bad guy, that would be interesting to watch Tommy Lee Jones have to like battle wits with somebody who's like psychotic and super smart. No, we're not going to do that. We're going to do the same movie again.
Just the same movie.
Yeah.
It's horrible. Okay.
It's a standalone sequel.
On a positive note, next category. This is the last one. Movie that needed a sequel and didn't get one.
Oh,
I think I know what Corey's going to say.
this is my longest list. Besides Snyderverse. I'm going to stay out of the Snyderverse because I'm going to say everything in the Snyderverse needs a sequel. Doggone it, yes, they do. But I'm going to stay out of there because that's so obvious. I'm going to go to some other categories here.
Just one.
Just one?
Just one.
I think Corey's a little fired up about that topic.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Oh, dang. Well, besides Spaceballs 2, which should have happened, the search for more money, I'm going to go with District 9.
Ooh.
Oh, interesting.
District
choice.
9 is the Charlton Copley's, or I think that's
Charlton Copley, yeah.
Is a great actor. Absolutely great. I love him in everything I see him in. And they did this movie, and it was such a great premise. And I'm waiting for the next one. Neil Blomkamp, that's who it was. He needs to make a sequel. I need a sequel to that movie. I heard by looking it up this last week that there's rumors of another sequel, but I would love it.
Yeah. Go, Justin. What's yours?
No, I'm gonna not piggyback, but Corey, have you seen Chappie?
Yes.
Isn't that in the same universe? Hasn't that been confirmed?
Oh, I didn't know it was in the same universe.
I think it's in the same universe. I might have made that up. Please, no one fact check me.
Universe. Just that's more robotic.
No, seriously, fact check us. Email us.
Let
Hit
us
us on
know.
Twitter.
Someone out there.
No.
Let
fact
us
check
know.
me. I might be making that up, but I'm pretty sure it's in the same universe, or maybe I might have made that up.
Okay.
I have about 14 other movies on this list of movies that I need sequels for. So some of those directors, but I'm going to let you guys go too. I know we can spend a whole podcast just on movie sequels that need to happen.
See, that sounds like a great category for you to start on the Facebook group, Corey.
I think so. I'm going to throw that out there. I'm going to say this and copy
That's what it's for. Extend the show like that way. Justin, do you have one?
I do have one, and my wife is sick of me talking about this because I've been saying it for years. Inception is a fantastic movie, but it introduces you into this world where like this dream heist is already like a known idea to several people. Like it's known among the rich and famous, and there are even people like already lucid dreaming in that world. The technology already exists. They talk about how the military has done like research on it and things like that. And we have all these relationships that have existed previous to Inception. I would like to see that movie, not necessarily with the same cast, but with the same concept and like the development of what helps people intercept and like dream heist and enter each other's dreams. I want to explore that topic more.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Yeah.
So, Corey, my number one was, but I'm going to throw Zack Snyder's Justice League is the one that needs a sequel.
Absolutely.
But to give you another one, I'm also going to say Alien Covenant because I need to see that story completed. I want to.
Agreed.
Okay. So as you guys know, we're giving one lucky listener a digital copy of Avengers Age of Ultron today. All you had to do was look for the pinned tweet on our Twitter profile and like and retweet the tweet to enter. The winner of the digital copy of Avengers Age of Ultron is... Aaron at Goodbye Petrol. Congratulations, Aaron. Be sure to direct message us on Twitter, and we'll send you the code for the digital copy. Nice job, my friend.
Congrats.
So, yeah, awesome. We'll have some more giveaways this year for sure. And as we close, we just want to say thank you so much for listening. If you'd like to connect with us, you can find us on Twitter and Facebook. Email us at readingbetweenreels@gmail.com or use the SpeakPipe app on our website. If you enjoyed the show, please tell a friend. One last thing, our next episode will be a review of Superman the Movie with special guest Dan Zayer from Coffee with Kenobi. Send us an email or voicemail about your favorite moments from Superman the Movie, and we'll share it on the next episode.